And welcome back. I'm starting to feel like this is Groundhog Day again because I'm having flashbacks to early 2022 when the housing market was absolutely skyrocketing. Back then, I was reporting over and over again about how our US housing market was not sustainable. In other words, we can't have home prices reach all-time record highs every single month without home prices coming down eventually. Even though the US housing market is much slower now compared to a year ago, I'm starting to see some similarities to early 2022. So for example, Redfin reported last week that average monthly housing payments for home buyers was just shy of the all-time record high that was set during the previous week. Not sustainable. On top of that, the MBA reported that housing affordability in March was the worst on record, dating back to at least 2009, as far back as their data goes. Not sustainable. And now it just got harder to buy a house because lending standards have not been this tight since January of 2013. And to make matters worse, despite the fact that average rates have been above 6% all year, the National Association of Realtors just reported today that home prices have increased in 70% of the US metros during the first quarter this year. So what in the world is going on? Let's discuss. And before we get started in today's video here, I invite you guys to subscribe and also hit the like button as well, because I post frequent housing market updates. And of course, a lot of research goes into making these videos. So I appreciate you. Let's go ahead and dive right in. The first hurdle for home buyers right now that I want to discuss with you guys is the increase in average 30-year fixed rate mortgages. So according to the Mortgage News Daily as of today, which is May 9th, the average 30-year fix is at 6.68%. That's an increase of 1.16 percentage points compared to 12 months ago, when average rates are at 5.52%. Also at 6.68%. This is the highest rates we've had going back to last Monday on May 1st. If you guys follow the channel, you guys know that I generally talk about average increases in your average monthly housing payment compared to 12 months ago. However, in today's video, very briefly here, I want to touch on the increase in your average monthly housing payment compared to 2 years ago, when average rates were at 3%, which is absolutely insane here. Because this is very, very important, because this is the true impacts regarding home buyers right now compared to 2 years ago here. So the average monthly housing payment 1 year ago, based on the median sold price then at $327,000, that's based on data from Redfin 2 years ago, back in 2021. Putting 5% down, your average rate 2 years ago was about 3% for an average 30-year fix, according to the Mortgage News Daily. So therefore, 2 years ago, your housing payment will be $1,309 per month. Now fast forward to today though, the median sold price has increased to $369,000 from the $327,000 from 2 years ago. Putting 5% down, again, the new rate right now at approximately 6.7%, your new housing payment would be $2,257 per month. This means your average monthly housing payment to buy a median price home today compared to 2 years ago is a whopping $947 more per month to buy that same house today compared to 1 year ago. And by my dumb math, that's a 72% increase compared to 2 years ago, which is absolutely insane. I don't know about you, but my pay raise did not increase by 72% compared to 2021. Therefore, the increase in your average monthly housing payment is not sustainable. So when average rates increase from 3% to approximately 6.7% in 2 years, that of course is increasing your average monthly housing payment. The other side of the coin here though is that this also decreases your buyer purchasing power. So because rates have increased by 3.7 percentage points in the last 2 years, that causes a 37% decrease in your buyer purchasing power. So for example, if you qualified for a maximum loan amount of approximately $300,000 2 years ago. Now, based on rates increasing from 3% to about 6.7%, you may qualify for only $189,000 due to the increase in rates. But wait, there's more, because based on this scenario that I shared, based on your average payment from 2 years ago compared to now, look at this though, because 1 year ago, or actually 2 years ago, the total interest paid over the life of that 30-year loan would be $160,847. Now look at this though, because based on today's rates, which again is May 9th, your total interest paid over the life of that same loan of 30 years would be $462,104. That's an increase of $300,000 in more interest paid over the life of that loan. So to briefly recap here, because prices as well as rates increased greatly compared to 2 years ago, your average monthly housing payment has increased by 72% to buy a median price home today compared to 2 years ago. On top of that, your buyer purchasing power has decreased by about 37%. And on top of that, you're also paying approximately $300,000 more in interest paid over that 30-year loan. And sadly, my friends, that is not sustainable, and it's definitely a big issue due to this lack of housing affordability in the US. And to make matters worse, the MBA just announced today that credit availability for mortgages in April decreased once again. A decrease in credit availability means that lending standards are actually getting tighter. So according to them, their mortgage credit availability index, or their MCAI, fell by 0.9%, which of course indicates that lending standards are actually getting tighter. So according to Joel Kahn, who is the MBA's vice president and deputy chief economist, he stated the following: mortgage credit availability decreased in April to the lowest level since January of 2013, reflecting the tightening in broader credit conditions stemming from the recent banking sector challenges and, of course, the uncertain economic outlook. Here's a look at their index going back to 2011. And keep in mind, the lower the number here, the harder it is in order to get a loan approved to buy a house here. So lending standards right now are at the tightest levels going back to January of 2013. Also, when we zoom out going back to 2004, you really can see how tight lending standards are compared to pre-Great Recession levels. So back in 2004, for example, their index was approximately 400. Now it's only 99.5. And also, this is much lower, or lending standards are much tighter now compared to 2005's peak when their index was approaching 900. This means, of course, that back in 2005 and 2006, their index was 10 times the current levels we have right now. And that, of course, means that lending standards were very loose back in 2005 and 2006, to say the least. All right, let's recap what we know so far. Of course, rates have increased greatly compared to 2021. And of course, lending standards are actually getting tighter for people who want to buy a house using a loan. But to make matters worse, home prices have been increasing this year. So for example, according to the National Association of Realtors, just posted today, hope you guys like these timely housing market updates, nearly 7 out of 10 metro markets, or approximately 70% of the US markets here, registered home price gains in the first quarter this year, as 30-year fixed rates fluctuated between 6.1 and 6.7% during the first quarter this year. Now, we're not talking about giant increases in prices like we saw back in 2022. I should say the early parts of 2022, because only 7% of the 221 markets that they actually tracked had double-digit increases compared to the same time frame 1 year ago. Also, according to the National Association of Realtors, home prices increased in the South, a gain of 1.4% in the first quarter of this year compared to the first quarter of 2022. Prices increased the most in the Midwest, a gain of 2.9%, whereas in the Northeast, they fell by 0.1%, and the West fell by 5.3%. Also, in general, what we have been seeing here in the US is that in more affordable markets, prices are going up, where in more expensive markets, such as the San Francisco Bay Area, for example, prices are actually going down. And a really good way to show this with you guys is this right here, because this is Redfin's housing market update from last week. And they state here that Oakland, California saw the biggest decrease in the median sold price compared to a year ago, down by 15.6%. In contrast, Miami, Florida was one of the biggest increases in the nation, a gain of 7.8%. So for example, here is the median sold price in Oakland, California, which is entirely different compared to Miami. So Oakland, California is just on the other side of the bay, just east of San Francisco in California, of course. So the median sold price in Oakland for the 4 weeks ended April 30th, more or less April this year, was $918,000, a decrease of 16% compared to 2022 at this time, when the median sold price there was $1,088,000. That's not the biggest story though, in my opinion, because this orange line right here is 2021. So not only are prices down compared to 2022, but home sale prices are down compared to 2021 as well. This means during the same time period, home sold prices are at a 2-year low in Oakland, California. Now, this is a night and day difference compared to Miami, Florida, because in Miami, Florida, prices are up by 8% year over year, where Oakland is actually down by 16%. Also, Miami, the median sold price right now is at $507,000. Compare this to 2 years ago, the median sold price was $408,000. This means by my dumb math that home sold prices have increased by 24% compared to 2 years ago, whereas in Oakland, California, they're down compared to 2021. It just goes to show how every real estate market is different, and real estate is definitely local. On top of that, more expensive coastal markets, such as the San Francisco Bay Area, are decreasing the most. And of course, more affordable areas, such as Miami, Florida, are actually increasing in the US right now. The National Association of Realtors also touched on this as well, because their chief economist, Lawrence Yun, noted that cities in the West, like San Francisco, San Jose, and Reno, saw home prices drop by at least 10% from a year ago. In contrast, prices rose by at least 10% from the previous year in cities like Milwaukee, Dayton, as well as Oklahoma City. He also added that home prices are also lower in cities that previously experienced rapid price gains. For example, home prices increased an astonishing 67% in 3 years in Boise, as well as Austin through 2022. However, even though home prices increased greatly over the past 3 years in Austin, Texas, for example, year-over-year prices in the first quarter this year decreased by 13.5% in Austin, and also down by 10.3% in Boise. And also Phoenix saw a decrease of 7.3%. And that, by the way, is a change in prices compared to the first quarter of 2022 compared to this year's quarter, Q1, of course, as well. Also, according to Black Knight, which is a video I posted about 2 days ago, there was only 3 areas in the US in which home prices are still falling for the month of March. So for example, the 50 largest markets, only 3 areas saw price decreases in March compared to February. That was Austin, Texas, Salt Lake City, Utah, as well as San Antonio, Texas. Also, prices were flat in Phoenix as well as Dallas this March compared to February. The National Association of Realtors also reported here that only 31% of the 221 markets they tracked experienced home prices decreasing in the first quarter compared to the first quarter of 2022. They also noted here that in the first quarter, housing affordability actually improved slightly from the fourth quarter of 2022. However, though, it's a big jump compared to 1 year ago, because your average housing payment has increased a whopping 33.1%, or a giant increase of $462 more per month compared to 1 year ago. On top of that, families spent 24.5% of their income on mortgage payments this quarter, up from 19.5% from 1 year ago. Now, for first-time homebuyers, it's actually worse though, because first-time homebuyers spent 37% of their family income on mortgage payments. A mortgage is considered unaffordable when it amounts to more than 25% of the family's income. In other words, not sustainable. I'd love to hear from you guys though. What's your biggest takeaway from today's video? I appreciate you guys watching this video, and of course for supporting my YouTube channel in general. Hope you guys have an awesome day and look forward to seeing you on the next video.